from the heart of rural France. This is the Keto Woman podcast, brought to you by me. Hello Keto Lovelies, I'm Daisy Brackenhall, and I've spent most of my life struggling with my weight and confidence, and have always had a difficult relationship with food. Even when I finally got to my target weight, after weight loss surgery and eating low carb, I couldn't maintain it and I was miserable. I've been keto now for over 2 years, and it has given me the freedom to fall in love with food again, without the constant gain, loss, guilt, virtue cycle of before. Health and happiness is where it's at now, running on fat. Welcome to the Keto Woman podcast. Each week I'll be chatting to inspirational women, maybe even the odd man, to discover the secrets to their success so that I can share them with you. So what is keto? Keto is a way of eating that enables you to switch your body's main fuel source from sugar to fat. Who doesn't want to be a fat burner, right? But how do we achieve this? A great place to start is by keeping carbs under 20 grams a day. So things like leafy greens and above ground vegetables, plus some nuts and seeds and the incidental carbs you find in things like full fat dairy. Choose delicious fatty proteins and be free and easy with oily dressings on salad and butter on your veggies. Once you're in the swing of things, you can tweak it to suit you. Make your own personalized keto. You'll hear all sorts of ways to keto from my guests. There is no one way to do keto, no one size fits all. I hope to show you just how flexible and fabulous this way of eating can be. I'm not a doctor, and most of my guests won't be either, so we really can't give you medical advice. It's always best to consult your own doctor when making big changes to your diet and lifestyle, because they know you and your medical history, and so have access to the bigger picture. Wouldn't it be helpful to have one place where you could find all the links? Want to sign up to my new Patreon exclusive Facebook group, Daisy's Lovelies? No problem. How about subscribing to my YouTube channel? Please help me notch up my first 1,000 subscribers by going to links.ketowomanpodcast.com and following the YouTube link. Not following me on Instagram yet? Hit the Instagram button. You get the idea. All the buttons, all the links you need are at links.ketowomanpodcast.com. Thank you, Judith Allison, for supporting me in this podcast by making a pledge at my Patreon page. Do you want to hear your name here at the top of the show? Are you enjoying this podcast and would like to help me make more episodes? Then head over to my Patreon page at patreon.com/KetoWoman or hit the support button on the Keto Woman podcast website. It means a great deal to me, and you will get to headline the show just like Judith did today. This week's extraordinary woman is Karen Ogilvie. Karen, RHN, began her keto journey in 2016 after being diagnosed with atrial fibrillation and prediabetes. Through alternate day fasting and carbohydrate restriction, she has improved her A1C from 6.2 to 5.0 and has lost 80 pounds, which significantly reduces her risk of stroke. Her passion for helping others achieve health and wellness led her to become an admin of Keto Science Alliance on Facebook. She's recently become a nutrition professional as a registered holistic nutritionist, graduating from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and will be launching Wholly Holistic Keto Coaching Services in September 2019. You will also be able to hear her on the Keto Book and Wine Club podcast with her co-host Jennifer Kleiman. As you will hear, this episode was recorded live at Keto Fest. I'm planning to record a roundup with Carrie soon, so I won't go into details now, but suffice to say, a great time was had by all, and it was another great success. We are already making plans for Keto Fest 2020, and we'll be releasing the date soon with a new all-singing, all-dancing website with all sorts of fabulous stuff. Welcome to the Keto Woman podcast, live from Keto Fest. You can hear there in the background the lovely audience who have made the trek up the hill in this incredible heat and humidity. So thank you so much for making the effort. And welcome. Karen Ogilvie to the Keto Women podcast. I have been trying to get you on the podcast for ages.
Yes.
So
delighted to be here.
Thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's been a long time coming. I think we've been trying to do this for 2 years now.
Absolutely. So tell us a bit about you.
I'm a mum and a registered holistic nutritionist working out of Ottawa, Canada. I've been working as specifically a very low carb registered holistic nutritionist for a year. Before that, I was working as a volunteer coaching people online on how to reverse their diabetes and claim better health through a low carb lifestyle. So at home, I have one little son. He's 11 years old. And through him, I became interested in nutrition. And that's what brought me to keto. When he was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism. And I was keen on helping him reduce some of his symptoms by following the recommended diet, which was gluten and casein-free. And through that, I became more interested in exactly how nutrition affects our mental health and our general well-being. And that's what eventually brought me to keto after my own diabetes and AFib diagnosis.
And so how's it been working for him? What kind of changes have you seen and over what kind of time period?
With him, I didn't find too much of a difference following specifically the diet that was recommended by his doctor, the gluten and casein-free. What I did find was that when I eliminated sugar and grains, he had good results. And when I increased his fats, specifically his fats through animal fats, high DHA, omega-3 fatty acids, he had more impulse control and he had better focus.
Tell us a bit about how that works. I know it can really, with autism, you need to try and keep things as stable and in routine as much as possible. Is that right? So I can imagine that swing in blood sugars being the exact opposite of what you need.
Everyone that has sort of these ADHD behaviors will find a benefit from stabilizing their blood glucose so that they don't have the rise and the crash. With Freddie, I wasn't specifically trying to help him with autism. He's proudly autistic. But some of his issues were stemming from the ADHD symptoms that he would have, so lack of focus and impulsivity. And so by keeping his blood sugar stable, by removing refined sugar, and then helping him foster a better mood and better concentration by incorporating fish oil. He found great improvement for those particular symptoms.
And what kind of issues do you find that he faces, you face as a family? I've seen some of your posts online and you just have to deal with different stereotypes and all sorts of things flying around about autism. And just tell us a little bit more about that, because it sounds like it can be difficult sometimes.
It can be.
I see you getting heated.
It can be difficult sometimes. As I said, he's proudly autistic, and I catch him online sometimes. People don't know that he's 11 years old. I catch him trolling anti-vaccine people on YouTube. He
likes to educate them, doesn't he?
He likes to educate them. He takes great offense to the idea that he's somehow disabled or injured, because he's proudly unique. He's keen on that. He's also very proud of his interests. He's a math savant. He's very interested in science. So as I went back to school to learn about nutrition, he became very interested in learning particularly about sugar. He's a big fan of Gary Taubes. He likes to talk to people about the sugar in kids' foods, fruit juices and fruit snacks and that sort of thing. He did a little demonstration for the kids at his school where he had all the different drinks that they would have in their lunch, like Gatorade or fruit juices. And then he would have the bags of the equivalent amount of teaspoons of sugar
Nice.
next to it. So, yeah.
It's a good visual, isn't it? You can see straight away just how much sugar you're piling into your system.
Exactly. From something that would seem as innocuous as a fruit juice.
It's just supposed to be healthy.
Because it's supposed to be healthy. Yeah.
And so you got into keto as a byproduct of doing it for him, just supporting him as a family, presumably.
Yes, yeah, doing it for him, I became interested in nutrition. So when I was called into my doctor's office and was told that I was this far off of the full-blown diabetes diagnosis, I had an A1C of 6.2, and I had a heart condition called atrial fibrillation. I wanted an alternative to what she was suggesting, which was, just restrict calories and then get gastric bypass. So I wanted to explore doing a restricted carbohydrate diet. I had done that in the past and I had good success, but kind of strayed, because I'd be told it's not healthy long term, it's not sustainable. So I decided to give it one last effort before agreeing to having a very invasive surgical procedure. And so I'm still down 80 pounds, and the doctor is very happy with the results, particularly for my A1C. Now I'm nowhere near being diabetic with an A1C of 5.0.
Good for you. Mm-hmm. And along the way, you discovered passion for this. You want to help other people and made it formal. Tell us a bit more about that.
When I decided that I wanted to try being low carb again, when I was considering surgery, between the time when I had done Atkins in the 90s and now all these Facebook groups popped up, and so I decided I was going to find Atkins groups. But I was surprised when I went searching on Facebook that there were very few Atkins groups, but I kept on seeing all these groups that were called keto or ketogenic. Now, doing Atkins in the 90s, I knew what ketosis was. So I'm like, I'll just join one of these. So I joined a small group of people that seemed to be really keen on learning the science behind the nutrition of low carb. And before I knew it, I had agreed to help run the group. And it grew. I think there was 3,000 when I took it over. And now there is over 110,000 in the one group, and I think about 115,000 in the other.
Just a few then.
So just a few.
And what are they called?
We have two main groups. One is Keto Science Alliance, that we have general discussion of nutritional science. And then we have another one that's specific for food and recipe discussion. We call it non-denominational keto. So all forms of very low carb are welcome there. We have people that eat very clean, more of like a paleo style, very low carb. And then we have, the people that's like if it fits in your macros, and carnivores, and vegetarians, you even have a couple of vegans, but they're all pursuing better health through a ketogenic diet.
Keeping that focus in mind, not getting too judgmental about exactly how people do it, as long as they're achieving the results they're looking for.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. I have my own particular way of being keto. I prefer more of the paleo style, where I restrict dairy and stick to whole foods, meat and vegetables mainly.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about your keto.
What
does your everyday keto look like?
My everyday keto, I have sort of the Monday to Friday keto. I believe in like the 80-20, So 80% of keto for me is lots of olive oil and avocado oil, healthy fats, and saturated fats from meat, and leafy green vegetables. And then, on the weekend, I put on my mom hat and do baking for my son to have his crackers and cookies and muffins and that sort of thing. So we'll have little ketofied treats. And that's been a lot of fun, learning how to do some baking with all these new products that weren't around when I was doing Atkins
'Cause you're not
20 years ago.
natural born baker, are you?
Not really, no. I'm just, I'm a cook at home for my son. But the keto baking's been fun.
And does he enjoy? Does he help you out?
He's my food critic. He's not really my assistant chef. So he'll be brutally honest if a recipe is good or not good. He's very particular because he's sensitive. He's very particular to certain sweeteners. So he'll tell me what he thinks.
And you are now a qualified nutritionist. Is that your label? What's your preferred label? I know there are different labels that go around. I'm
called a registered holistic nutritionist. So after running these Facebook groups for a couple of years, I decided that this is what I would like to do professionally. And I went back to school just as a general nutritionist course. I had the choice. I looked into going into university to becoming a dietitian. But the problem with that is that I would become part of the College of Dietitians in Ontario. And they are still very much beholden to the food guide, which is very similar to the U.S. Food pyramid, the healthy plate that you have in other countries. And I couldn't in good conscience do that because my preferred clientele would be somebody that is trying to control their diabetes through diet.
If you go down that route, you're stuck, aren't you? You have to recommend their guidelines.
You're very stuck. You're generally working in a hospital or under a doctor. And I did have some dietitians in the course with me, and they expressed a great deal of frustration that all they were doing with their degree was handing out Xerox copies of the same old diet of heart-healthy grains and fruit, and that wasn't ideal for most of their patients. So I decided to take the hippy-dippy course. That's a registered holistic nutritionist. So we deal with nutrition mainly, but mind, body, and spirit as well. So there's lifestyle coaching with that.
You can colour outside the lines. It doesn't surprise me that you took that route. Much more fitting for your character, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, yeah. And I did enjoy it. It was really interesting taking this course because it was general nutrition. And being a holistic nutritionist, they believe very strongly in biochemical individuality, so that what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you, and you address your client as a whole person, not addressing just a symptom like you would in a hospital setting as a dietitian.
I love that approach. Mm-hmm. And presumably you're looking at everything else that might be affecting whatever issue is they have.
Oh, everything. Sleep, their relationships, their sleep, their career. Yeah. All those things to try to help them live their best life and have their best health.
People tend to underestimate that. They often just, especially I guess if they're looking at weight issues.
Yes.
Always this blinkered vision really with just thinking about food. It's got to be the food that's the issue without necessarily thinking so much about all the other things that have
It's true.
impact.
Well, we hear it all the time, when you go to the doctors, that if anyone who has a weight issue, they talk about it. It's gluttony and sloth, right? Clearly you're eating too much and moving too little. And I've found working with thousands of people over the last few years that it rarely has anything to do with either of those things.
They're far from that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We just get a bit sick of being told that we are.
Sometimes, yeah.
I would love to open this up to you lot out there. Maybe you've got some questions for Karen. Come up to the mic and ask away, please. Come on.
They're shy. It's early.
They are. Don't make us put on our pretend voices.
Yes. We're thinking
we did have this as a plan. It was an option. We figured first one of the day, searing heat. There might not be anybody out there at all, and we might have to put on pretend voices. Here we go. So just tell us who you are and fire away.
I'm Jackie, and I would like to know how you handle plateaus in weight loss for a woman.
Well, it depends on how long the plateau is. In our group, we think plateaus are normal and healthy. People reach a certain level of homeostasis, and that is something that they can either choose to break through, and if they choose that they're no longer happy at that particular weight, then we start looking at things like their food journals, particularly with meal timing. I find that a lot of people that are having a plateau, it's not so much what they're eating, it's how they're eating and when they're eating. So we try to switch up fasting schedules. For me, I find with women in particular, especially mothers, sleep is usually what's missing. So what's happening is that they are very fatigued and they're trying to get their me time after the kids go to bed. And they should be going to bed too. So this is when night eating is happening. So I find that if we can get good sleep hygiene with these women, that a lot of the issues that are coming with night eating, snacking, eating out of the window, and also hormonal balance resolves itself.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Here comes my favorite.
Hi, I'm Becky.
You're Becky.
And this is a perfect question that I had a similar question with stalls.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lost quite a bit of weight and certainly have a way to go. But there's times that I'm pretty happy just having really good blood work. But you hear people talking about when we get this obese that our fat cells are dysfunctional or unhealthy. And so is that unhealthy for us to continue to carry that weight? Or is there any research behind that?
There's research coming out of a lot of Nordic countries right now that actually, as you age, maintaining the slightly overweight BMI and slightly overweight body fat percentage is actually healthier for longevity, that it is protective against disease. My only concern, if somebody is going to be maintaining a great deal of weight as we age, is injury. It's not a matter of those health cells being damaging. They're not disease-causing. But it is good to maintain balance and flexibility. So with somebody like that, I would definitely be looking into finding some sort of physical activity to keep that person moving, to keep the joints healthy. But no, I really don't see somebody maintaining a certain amount of body fat and as you get older as being a bad thing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
Hi, I'm Marie. I have a question about hormonal changes. So as we age and we go through the menopause, is there things that we can be incorporating into our diet that can help us without sort of like artificial supplementation, if you will?
For just some people that they have black cohosh, they'll take certain herbal supplements. I don't really specialize in the herbals. That's sort of an extra area of nutrition that I haven't really gotten into yet. But there are some nutritionists who do that specialize in natural alternatives to maintain hormonal balance. I also work with a nurse practitioner, and she specializes in bioidentical hormonal replacement therapy. And I know Jennifer Kleiman, who is my podcast partner, has worked with her and has had fantastic results supplementing for her hormonal health.
Thanks. Are there any just general foods that are preferred for it?
General foods? Well, usually I'll try to get them to limit the phytoestrogen, things like flax and soy, if you're going through that particular change, because some people find those aggravating when they're going through these hormonal fluctuations. And, honestly, just having a very low carb diet and staying away from foods that can have soy and soybean oil added really does help keep energy levels stable and make those changes seem more bearable.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Madge. as people see your success in what you're eating, they always want to know what you're eating. And I try to tell them, well, this is what I eat.
Yes.
But might not be the best for you. So I wondered, as a holistic nutritionist, how do you decide how to start them off? Do you just go with the basic, keep it low carb, or do you listen to them and say, well, maybe you want to try this, or?
If they're just learning, then one thing that I really like is Dr. Westman's page 4. It's very simple. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but you can download it online.
It's Dr. Westman's.
Dr. Eric Westman's page 4.
Page 4.
So it keeps it very simple. It's just, meat, fat, vegetables. But as a holistic nutritionist, because I'm treating the person as an individual, I go through a whole interview process where I, first of all, have to figure out what they don't like. A menu is not going to be very useful to something if I've got it full of tomatoes or something and they can't eat it. Right. And so, we go through this whole interview process. I figure out what their primary health concerns are, their likes, their dislikes, their habits. And we work from there, and I give them, a sample menu of things that I think that they would enjoy. And after a couple of weeks, they'll come back to me and we'll discuss. It's an ongoing conversation, discuss with them, what they did like, what they would like to try, and how it was making them feel.
That's great, because so many of them are kind of like, well, can I have that? And I can't have that. And I was like, no, I can't have that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, everyone's different. I mean, my husband is very much, just a low carb, if it fits in your macros person. But if I eat, some of his grain-based low carb wraps, I feel terrible.
Right.
So there's no point in eating something that you don't love, that you don't enjoy, because the ketogenic diet is delicious. And there's no point in eating something that's going to make you feel sick. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Anyone else? Come on.
Hello, I'm Lynn. Are there any patients that come your way that they have an alternate medical condition that you're like, all right, I can't touch you, right? Or if they have severe heart history or whatever that might be, what are some things that you go, okay, you need to really go to a higher level?
Mm-hmm. If I have somebody that's coming to me with a health concern, sometimes they don't even know that they have a particular problem. But that is part of my job, is to get them the proper referral to somebody who specializes in their particular health concern. So oftentimes I'll refer them to a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a counselor. Oftentimes, they're coming to me and it becomes apparent that they may have some kind of disordered eating or, some kind of serious psychological issue like depression or suicidal thoughts. So then it's my responsibility to get them to the proper services that are out of my scope. So I do prefer to work with somebody who has a doctor that's willing to explore my area of expertise, which is the low carb diet. And I work within the parameters that doctor or nurse has set up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Has that ever caused issues? Have you locked heads, as it were, with a client who's come to you and they're like, oh, but I talked to my doctor and they said I couldn't do what you've been recommending? Have you had struggles like that?
Yeah, I mean, there are some doctors that are still very much locked in, the diet that we've been following since the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Or, doctors that want their patients to go low-fat vegan. And I simply tell the person, well, you can get a second opinion from a different medical professional. I'll never say that a doctor is wrong. Or if somebody is very keen on following nutritional advice that is completely out of my area of expertise, like if they wanted to become a vegan, I would refer them out to a different nutritionist. It's not my area of interest, and it wouldn't be worth their time or mine, because this is the area that I've done all my research in.
It's the kind of thing you need a specialist for, really, don't you? Because it's you really have to work hard to get everything you need. It's possible, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's true. There's some people that I've worked with that, you have to tailor their diet because they have, serious health concerns, like they've had gastric bypass. And, what I would do for somebody that wanted to control their diabetes through diet would be to have them, fast and then feast. But I can't do that with somebody that has a stomach, the size of a hard-boiled egg. So I adjust things and work with the medical professional that they've been seeing, if possible.
I am Jeff Halverson with Greater Boston Keto. So I guess my question is how you decided where you wanted to get your credentials, because I'm thinking of doing something similar. Thanks.
With the school that I picked, I had choices. As I said, I looked into the university program to get a degree in as a dietitian. And it wouldn't have worked for what I wanted to do. I'd already been volunteering for a couple of years, coaching people in a very low carb diet. I had some options. It's important to do your research. There are a lot of online courses right now that I see people getting credentials for. They call them credentials. There was one that I saw that a friend took, and he paid good money into this. But the certification, when I looked into it myself, was pretty much meaningless. So you really want to look into your state, your province, what sort of credentials you would need to have an alumni association. That's important, and to be insured. And so there were a couple of schools in my city in Ottawa, and I wanted to actually be physically in a classroom. That was important for the way that I learn. And I picked one because actually the lady that owned that particular branch of the school, I had gone to high school with. So I had the choice of one or two, and I went with the one that I knew and that had been established. So I picked the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. They've been well established. They have a really good alumni association. So why that's important is that if I have a client who has a complaint about me, she could go to my alumni association. There's a reporting body. We're self-regulated in Ontario, so it's important to have that reporting body for your client's safety. And it's also important to have insurance. And if you're not part of one of these alumni associations, it's very hard to protect yourself with liability insurance.
Hi, I'm Scott. Thank you so much. With these Facebook groups of over 100,000 members, first of all, that's incredible. Congratulations. One thing I observe is they exist for all different types of diets. Mm-hmm. Snake diet, high carb diet, the baby food diet, whatever, you name it.
Yes.
And there's always, hundreds or a few thousand of members who are posting a lot, posting before and afters, clearly having success. And then there's probably a ton of lurkers, 60,000 people call it, who are just observing and learning. And then there's the invisible graveyard of people who are not successful, who maybe have tried it and failed and stay in the group. So I'm curious how you kind of think about adherence, managing adherence with such a large group of people, making it easier to adhere, or if you just think of that as kind of not your responsibility, more sharing information and helping people who want to adhere.
We talk a lot in our admin group about protecting the novice experience. Once again, we keep it non-denominational keto. Nobody is wrong. We'll explain why perhaps something wouldn't be a good idea for them. I've discussed it with my team quite a bit, that when somebody starts a new diet, particularly one that's as much of a drastic change from going from the SAD, standard American diet, to keto, you've got them for about 3 months on average. That is the statistic. People will try a new diet, and within 12 weeks, they are gone. So our idea is to protect that novice experience, that they have very positive results, and also we make it so that they realize that this is an easier way to eat and that it is a healthful way to eat. So when they do quit within 12 weeks, they will come back. So we do have a lot, I do see in our particular Facebook groups, a lot of people that, they fall off the wagon for whatever reason, But because they had such a positive experience as a novice, they return. We do have very good participation rate in our group in comparison to other ones. It's about 70%. We're very happy with that. That is one thing that I think we've done well.
Great. Well, I believe we have a bit of a Keto Fest
Yes.
funny story to share. I think it stems back from last year.
Last year, yeah. I was telling Daisy when we were talking in the kitchen that I was hoping this year would be less traumatic at Keto Fest than what happened last year. Daisy was, I think there was a prank that was played on me, and I think it was meant for Daisy.
Yeah, I missed out. I didn't know about this. It was all to do with the
beach
admin's house. Yeah, the admin house was supposed to be a beach house.
Last year.
So we get there, and I'm thinking as we're driving there, this doesn't look like it's close to the beach, but maybe it's somehow at the end of the garden or something. It didn't look right. Get there, because I'm excited. I love the beach, and I'm like, where's the beach? Where's the beach? That was the first thing as soon as I got there. It wasn't there. So they changed the house. But my plan had been for all the admins to go for a midnight swim. I love that. It's a bit weird. I have a lake nearby, and I've been for midnight swims before, and it's great fun. I love it. So I had this plan that we were going to go for this midnight swim. But of course, it all fell away because we weren't by the beach. But unbeknownst to me.
No, see, I was not in the admin house. I was at the Holiday Inn. And so was Richard Morris. And he had known about this admin house. There was supposed to be a beach, and they were going for this midnight swim. That didn't happen. So we had been working all day in RD86 in the kitchen, and it was hot, and we were tired. And, I got back to my hotel room, and I had a shower, and so my phone goes ding, and I look, and it's Richard Morris, and he says, "Hey, do you fancy a swim? You want to come down to the pool with me?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure. Give me a few minutes. I'll meet you down there." He goes, "No. I'm going to meet you in your room," which should have been, a tip for me. I'm thinking he's nice. He's going to escort me down to the lobby. No. I'm like, "Well, give me a few minutes. I'll get into my suit," and I get the knock on the door. And I open it up, and he's standing there, and he's got his hands behind his back, looking all proud, chest puffed out. And the first thing I think is, dear God, this man has walked down the hallway in wearing nothing but a black T-shirt. And then I suddenly realized that no, he's not naked from the waist down. Instead, he's wearing the world's smallest black Speedo with his black T-shirt. and he goes, "Okay, well, let's go downstairs." He says, "You can't walk down through the lobby towards the pool in that." He's like, "Why not? This is my suit." And just then he laughs, and he's got his hands behind his back, and he pulls out, and he's got decent swim trunks. And he says, "No," he says, I brought this for the beach swim that didn't happen." And he turns around on his heels to go into my bathroom to get changed. And just then I see it as he's walking away on the back of his tiny Speedo, Australia, written right across his bum. But I'm pretty sure that was meant for you on the beach.
I missed out. And of course in Australia, those are known as budgie smugglers, right?
I didn't get a very close look. I went hysterically blind for a brief moment.
What I want to know is where they are this year. I mean, I'm staying at the Holiday Inn. Perhaps we can do a replay.
Maybe. I don't know.
So as is customary, can we round up, please, Karen, with a top tip?
Sleep. I think I touched on this earlier before. Sleep is so important for your hormonal balance. And I find that, a lot of people that are struggling with night eating, myself included, I have a busy life. I'm a mother, a volunteer. I work. I'm on the Facebook groups all the time. And a lot of times we try to claim some of that time for ourselves after our children go to bed and it's quiet. But often when you think you're hungry, you're actually tired. So try to get that 8 hours every night. I'm better at preaching than practicing myself, as we all are, especially when it comes to sleep. Mm-hmm.
It does make a difference, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I seem to fall into my natural sleep pattern when I come to the States. I'm absolutely dreadful about staying up too late and end up still online, probably because someone's nodding over there. Yeah. Probably one of the people is, Daisy, what are you still doing online? Go to bed. Because it's 4:00 in the morning or something, my time. But of course, when I shift back in time here, I'm waking up at 6:00 in the morning, all bright and sparky, and getting to sleep at a good time at night and getting a good chunk of sleep. So I do well when I'm here.
Well, maybe I need to come to France to get better sleep. Maybe we can
can do a swap.
Yeah, there we go.
Rangan Chatterjee there's a podcast that I really enjoy listening to, and he talks about the pillars of health, and he maintains that sleep is the pillar that actually supports everything else.
It's true.
And if you can get that solid foundation, the others will stand up better.
It's easier to exercise if you've had a good night's sleep. It's easier to keep your blood sugar stable. I know if any of you test your blood glucose in the morning, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, if you've had fitful sleep, not enough sleep, you'll find that your fasting blood glucose is much higher.
I've ordered, getting in on all these people with their self-experimenting, I've ordered a CGM.
Oh.
So I'm going to see just how much my 4 a.m. late nights impacts my blood sugar. And maybe that will be what I need, along with people like Sandy telling me off to go to bed. Might be what I need to get some sleep.
Even if somebody's had a nightmare, you can see it in the CGM. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Really interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing this Keto Fest live experience with me.
Thanks for having me on. No, I've been waiting to do this for a long time. I'm glad we could do it.
And it's so weekend. Nice to spend time with you again. Yes. In general, enjoy Keto Fest. And thank you, my wonderful Keto Fest lovelies out there for coming up here in this heat and sharing it with us. Thank you so much. To get the resources and links from this show, please go to ketowomanpodcast.com/episodes. Please share this podcast with as many people as possible by sharing one of my links or just taking a screenshot of an episode that you enjoyed. Reviews really help raise the profile of the podcast, which gets it in front of more people, but also helps me attract a wide variety of guests. So please take a minute to leave a review on whichever podcast app or platform you like to listen on. It doesn't go unnoticed by me, the people who regularly like, share and comment on my posts. Your support really does mean the world to me. Thank you. Are you enjoying this podcast? Help me make more episodes and videos by making a pledge at my Patreon page, patreon.com/KetoWoman. Or simply hit the support button on the Keto Woman Podcast website. Don't forget to join in the fun on the Keto Woman Podcast Instagram and Facebook pages, and Daisy_Keto Woman on Twitter. Are you my next extraordinary woman? Maybe you've got an idea for a show, a topic you would like to hear about. Let me know how I can tickle your earbuds by dropping me a line at daisy@ketowomanpodcast.com. This week's end quote is from Mary Temple Grandin. The most interesting people you'll find are ones that don't fit into your average cardboard box. They'll make what they need. They'll make their own boxes. Bye-bye, Keto Lovelies.